I'm going to point out at the beginning of this, Toronto is a team that gets over-reported on in Canada. Yes. Yes, they do. But there's something that's not being reported on that I maybe it's being reported somewhere else. Where's everybody going to play? So they currently have $1.469 million in cap space, according to the projected lineup. And I'm stuck looking at this lineup and saying, okay, so where's everybody going to play? And the question then becomes, are we going to see moves made between now and the start of the season by Kyle Dubas? Because it's fascinating to look at this team. So your top six, and it really doesn't matter who's where. Of course, people will argue. Hyman, Matthews, Marner. Matthews and Marner like playing together. If you put Marner with Tavares, it's no big deal. Nylander with Matthews, it's fine. So Mikheyev, Tavares, and Nylander, or you could have, I guess, Kerfoot on that second line. Is Kerfoot now completely on the wing? Because I would envision him as a third-line center. And Thornton I might be willing to put on the fourth line and see how that goes. But you see, then you got Simmons on the third line. And then VC, Spezza, and Boyd would, I think, project as that fourth line. But don't forget, they got Barabanov coming over. He's 26 years of age. They didn't sign him so he'd play in the AHL. He's not coming over to play in the AHL. So where does he play? Is he going to be just a pure fourth liner? Does he go to the third line and bump Simmons down? Then you got Joey Anderson, who they picked up in the trade, of course, for Andreas Janssen. And where does Anderson play? Anderson should be, I would think, at least third line. It's funny because he comes over from New Jersey, and I know there's no fanfare, but he's a pretty good player, and he's at the very least an NHL level player. So does Anderson bump somebody else out of here? There has to be other deals. It has to be, right? Now, Engvall, does he end up getting sent down? Agostino, you can absolutely send down to the AHL, should be able to clear waivers. Malgin, who they just re-signed, well, he projects down the middle. I'm not sure where he plays. Of course, Patan is an extra. There's a lot of forwards there. There's a lot of guys who'd have to clear waivers before getting sent down. And you have to ask yourself, so are they getting Anderson? Does Anderson, if he doesn't factor into this, does he factor in ahead of Boyd? What about Barabanov, who's coming over? He's 26, like I said, 26 years of age, which is notable because you don't come over at age 26 to be sent down to the minors. The top six, to me, is pretty secure. And then it's that bottom six where anything can go. Now, the good news is that Kyle Dubas has made it so that they have NHL quality players to step in the event of an injury. That's important. It's important that when you get that guy stepping in there, that you're not like, well, he's not the other guy. That's pretty clear, and he's actively hurting the team. You don't want that with your fill-ins. The blue line, though, is pretty darn near as interesting as the forward group. Riley, Brody, Muzzin, Hall, Dermott, Bogosian. Is that the top six? Probably not. But Sandin's on the left side. Do you move him to the right and bump Bogosian out to the number 7 defenseman? Maybe. Dermott, who's an RFA right now as I'm recording this. Does Dermott stay where he is? Or does Dermott slide out of the lineup? And then you've got Liljegren. Where's Liljegren in his development? Is Liljegren a guy that maybe Toronto looks at trading? Maybe they say, you know what, Timothy Liljegren is still young enough, somebody will take him, but we don't foresee him as being a part of our lineup. Does Hall get bumped down? Does Sandin switch sides? And then you've got Marinson, you've got Rosen, and Mikko Lehtinen, who Leaf fans are excited to see. He's also 26 years of age, the same as Barabanov. Where does he factor in, and who is he bumping out of the lineup? Because if he's on the left side, and they're all listed as left side on Cap Friendly, you've got Riley, Muzzin, Dermott, Sandin, Marinson, Rosen, Lehtinen, and then on the right side, Brody, Hall, Bogosian, Liljegren. There's too many defensemen there. So I would think Liljegren's probably on his way out. Marinson will clear waivers. Calle Rosen will clear waivers. I feel bad for Calle Rosen. I think he's a half-decent defenseman. But it's interesting looking at this blue line because I would still, looking at this blue line, say they really have to hope that Sandin takes that next step offensively. Riley doesn't have anybody else on that blue line offensively to back him up. A good example I would use is either the Stanley Cup champions, who have Hedman backed up by Sergachev offensively. Then you had Dallas, who were the finalists. They had Heiskanen and Klingberg. They have Riley in Toronto. Riley's fantastic, but you need somebody else who's going to put up the points. Muzzin is not that guy. Hall tries really hard. Hall, there's a lot of effort from Hall, but I don't see the kind of offense from him that you need if you're going to legit be a contender. So maybe it's Sandin. Maybe it's Lettinen. Maybe Lettinen steps into this spot. Does he switch over to the right side? The part that I find interesting that seems to be going on in the NHL right now is that teams seem to be less concerned about who shoots left and who shoots right anymore. That seems to be far less of a consideration for us as fans than it even is for the teams. It's almost as if teams are saying, well, it's a couple right-handers, but we'll figure it out. If we have to pair them together on the blue line, we'll do that. There seems to be more willingness to do that now than there used to be. And then in net, you've got Anderson, Campbell, and Dell. Does Aaron Dell clear waivers if they send him to the AHL? It's really depending on whether or not there's injuries. I'm really surprised that Aaron Dell didn't get a backup offer from Anaheim. Maybe he did. Maybe he got a backup offer from Anaheim and he thought, no, I'd rather sign in Toronto and get a shot at the backup job. Maybe Campbell's on the market. The idea that Anderson's on the market has been out there for a while, but you don't sign Dell because you're planning on trading Anderson and you're going to go with Campbell and Dell. That's not something you're going to do. The key thing for the Toronto Maple Leafs is simple. You're trying to build yourself up to being a Stanley Cup contender. And as much as people want to chuckle and laugh about it, if this was any other team, if I put any other logo on this board and I had this lineup up here, people would say, yeah, that's a pretty good team. So when you look at who they've added in the offseason, they added VC. Okay. They added Thornton down the middle. Boyd, Simmons. Technically, Barabanov would be coming in for his first season. Bogosian, Brody, Dell down here. There's been a lot of additions. And it's going to make it so that a lot of players are fighting for what should be few jobs. So one thing that I'm wondering, and I'd love to hear this from Leaf fans, because there are a lot of players, and this is why I'm doing a Leafs video. There's a lot of players on this team that could and should be in the NHL. And there's going to be some guys who I think probably get lost on the waiver wire come next season. But I guess the big question mark I have is that I like the top six. The top six I'll give a big old fat check mark, no problem. The bottom six, is it a little slower than what it was? Sure. A little older than what it was? Sure. But you know what? The bottom six I like because Barabanov probably jumps in there, right? Maybe. You've got Malgin, who could end up jumping in there as an injury replacement. Malgin's likely the 13th forward, although if Barabanov jumps in, Boyd drops to 13th forward. Boyd's a good player, but again, bottom six, absolutely. The blue line, I still have question marks about the blue line, like I said, because is it Sandin's time now? Is he going to be that top four guy? Did they fix the blue line in what they did? They let Barry go. They bring in Brody. They bring in Bogosian. Is that going to fix the blue line? Is there more work that needs to be done there? And then in net, if it's going to be Freddie Anderson and Jack Campbell, you know what? I like it. And it's easy to forget the Leafs got Campbell. It is. But I like Campbell. He was kind of adrift as a Dallas Star. It never worked for him in Dallas. But he got it together in LA, became a pretty solid backup. And I think he can play 30, 35 games. If Anderson's not overworked, Freddie Anderson's an excellent goaltender. That's something I argued, I think it was 2 years ago, that Anderson was getting overworked by Toronto. And if he could cut back his workload, he'll be a better goaltender in the late parts of the season and in the playoffs. He was not the reason they lost to Columbus. Just wasn't. So, two interesting questions here for Toronto fans. How do you envision the lines? Let me know in the comment section below. I'd be interested to see how you guys envision the lines. Which names that are on this board right now don't make it? Which ones on the board right now do you look at and say, nope? And is it trade? Is it they're just going to get waived and sent to the AHL? And then, are they done? Is this a Leafs team right now that Kyle Dubas is just sitting back and going, all right, I did everything I can. This is my roster. This is what we're going with. We're good. Was Thornton that last piece, or is there still more to come? It's going to be very interesting because, again, people point out regularly, well, they should trade Nylander. Nylander's always the name that's on the trade market according to armchair GMs. But it's interesting because if you traded Nylander, I would argue there's enough talent among this forward group that you could probably absorb the loss of Nylander. As long as you're fixing the blue line with that, you're picking up, say, a number 2 right-handed defenseman to play behind Brody, a guy who might be able to put up some points like Riley, it could absolutely work. Unless somebody's going to switch sides or maybe Liljegren's going to make it. It's going to be fascinating. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And I'm intending to start doing just these overlooks at the rosters, just gradual, just general, because we're not done with free agency. We're probably not done with trades. It's way too early for me to start doing season previews of any nature with teams, because again, we're going to see further movement, so I'm trying to delay that as much as possible. I'm thinking probably 3-4 weeks from now before I can say, all right, so we'll do season previews, like the official, and I want to know from the NHL what the plan is before I start working on previews and things of that nature. Like, are we just going to have a Canadian division? All that sort of stuff. But let me know your thoughts. As a Leafs fan, how fascinating is this roster? They've definitely added a lot of interesting parts. VC could end up being a steal. Keeping Spezza could be a very good move. Thornton could be solid. Simmons gives them that physicality they haven't had, along with the potential for some goals with that. So you don't have to choose one or the other. And I do like the Boyd signing. I like them keeping Melgen. But again, there's only so many spots to go around. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And again, I'll start going through and looking at some other rosters too. I've wanted to look at Colorado. Maybe tomorrow's time to look at Colorado and see why we might be picking this team to win a Stanley Cup, and whether or not the roster actually, when you look at it on the board, if it qualifies as, yeah, that's a team that can win a Stanley Cup or not, and try to make some comparisons with Tampa. Might be kind of fun. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.